Hi, everyone. You are listening to In the Making with Mander. I am your host, Amanda Roy, also known as Mander. And we are going to be talking about art today. I have my dear friend, Tiana Correa, here with me today. We're going to be talking about my artistic journey. We're going to be talking about my work as a mixed media artist. And Tiana and I are we're going to have a cool conversation.
We're just chat
I'm
it
ready.
up. Chat it up.
I'm ready. So I told her she could ask me anything. So we're just gonna get rolling and talk about all that good stuff. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. So, Amanda, a lot of us know you. You're in the community all the time, but I don't think people really know who the true Amanda is. So, I'm really excited to really kind of dive a little bit deeper of who's the artist, Amanda, right? Let's share a little bit about that. Like, who's Amanda Roy, the artist?
Like the artist right now.
The artist right now.
Right now.
Right
Okay.
now. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Amanda Roy, the artist right now, is someone who took a break from art for 19 years and re-engaged with her artistic process in 2023.
Okay.
With just this idea that maybe I can make my own ink out of things that I grow, out of things that I see when I'm hiking, how I can connect my love for nature with my love for art. I've been an artist my entire life, but thinking about how I could connect these two parts of my world. And I just wanted to make art again. I had put it away for so long, and I just wanted to do it again.
Absolutely.
So that is where I re-engaged with it. But now I make my own ink out of things that I forage or out of friends' community gardens, or you and I pick things out of window boxes.
Yes.
In downtown Hartford.
Literally anything as we're walking by, like just being able to just snatch it up and be inspired by it.
Yeah.
You know, I think what was really beautiful of what you said though is like it's something that was always in you, right? And like it's something that you needed to reignite within yourself. So can you tell me a little bit about like where it started, right? Like what was the root? Do you ever remember as a kid them being something that like you would just go to?
I can only remember myself as an artist. I loved art since I was a little kid, like 4 years old, right? I painted, I drew. My parents really allowed me to do that and encouraged me to do that. I remember like every school project, whether it was an art project or not, became an art project.
Oh, I love that.
So like my dioramas in elementary school were sick.
Were
like,
the bomb.
They were the best.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely.
Everything was just extra.
Yep.
And for me, I thought like I had this joke that I peaked in middle school for my art because I just really flourished in middle school art class.
Okay.
I made our yearbook cover in 8th grade.
Mander was on covers. Okay. What?
I got selected by the 8th grade class to make the 8th grade yearbook cover, and I painted murals in my library when I was growing up. Every quarter, every season, I would paint a new mural in the children's department of the library from 8th grade through 12th grade. So I painted a lot of murals. It was all like characters kids would know, and they would all be reading.
Yep.
So it was like connecting them and encouraging them to read.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I did that, and that was like a big thing for me. I took every class in high school. I took jewelry making and photography, digital photography, when like digital photography was hardly
like
a thing.
Before,
because I'm old. But
no, you are not. You are not. You are not. Absolutely not.
It was like it was the 90s, and digital photography was kind of newer. So I took that, and I actually got a scholarship in high school to go on and become an art teacher. It was for anybody that was pursuing becoming an art teacher.
Yeah.
And I got that scholarship. I did not become an art teacher, but I got the scholarship anyway.
But you're teaching. You're teaching. Absolutely. Yep.
And so that's kind of like where it really started, was that love of art as a kid, and just going to a school system that had a ton of opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for that. And then going into college, I was a studio art major to start. And then I took the turn and went to become a social studies education major. And I just kind of left art behind.
But you know what I think is beautiful also about your journey is like there's a lot of rooted things that are really of who you are, right? So like you talk a lot about like doing things that were inspired by history. You were doing like murals, and like it's wild that that's all of that is like full circle,
Yeah.
because it is who you are, right? You kind of organize, you educate people about the opportunities that they are, but also right now with you as an artist, the fact that you also are inspired by history and the things around you. So tell me a little bit more about like what that process is like, right? Like how do you forage, like what are the things that you are inspired, some of the pieces that you do?
Yeah, I make paintings out of ink that I make out of things I forage in nature, right?
Yeah.
So I might find flowers or I might find bark off of a tree and I'll make ink out of it.
Yeah.
But what I do is I research how different cultures or spiritual symbolism of those natural materials, and I keep a log of it. So if I go to a friend's community garden and I pick raspberries,
Yeah.
I look up what raspberries meant. And so raspberries mean attraction, they mean sensuality, they mean love. So I, take a note of that.
Intentional. Very intentional. Be intentional about your art, okay? Be Amanda Rowe.
I use food scraps too. So one day I was peeling a butternut squash and I was making butternut squash and black bean tacos. And I was peeling the butternut squash and I looked at it and I was like, I think I can make ink out of that.
Yes.
And I
you
did.
forged in your own house with your scraps, okay? You don't need to be outside. You can take things from like within your home and make ink out of it. That's wild. That's a story in itself.
I have ink out of like radicchio, like the
I don't know
bitter.
What that is.
It's like a purple looking, like it looks almost like lettuce, but it's a bitter green.
And
like it's
a cabbage?
Purple, kind of like a cabbage.
Okay.
But when you make ink out of it, it turned green. And it's this really cool green. And that's the thing, you don't know what's going to happen because there's chemistry involved in it. I got a C.
Science.
I got a C in chemistry. I'm terrible at chemistry because I was an art kid in school.
But you're interested in the evolution of what will happen, right? That's the magic of being able to identify something that you see that looks really cool and then seeing something else happen, right? Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And that's magical.
It is. It really feels like magic. It feels like alchemy or something when I'm making ink. So most of it I'm making on my kitchen stove in a pot.
You cooking.
I'm cooking.
Should be cooking. Okay.
So I'll take, red cabbage or bark off of a tree and I'll put it in a pot. I simmer it on the stove. I made ink out of pine needles back in December. I simmered it for 4 hours. So it's not like a quick thing. It's something that takes time because you want to like extract as much pigment out of the material as you can. And so you test it with like little paper over time and you see how rich the color is. But then you also add things to it. So I'll add white vinegar or I'll add pickling salt.
She's a chemist. That's awesome.
And those things will do they'll create different reactions with whatever it is. So something like red cabbage, it will change the pH of it if you add salt. So it actually turns it into this like sky blue, or it might turn it pink depending on how much salt you put in. And then you put the vinegar in to like really seal the color and make sure that the color holds to the watercolor paper.
Wow.
And so it's a balance of it. People ask me like if I keep a log of
That's
like, do you put
like, like it's like, do you have a notebook? It's like, okay, it's 10:59. I've actually been boiling this for about 4 hours and now it's turned from purple to yellow. Like, is that what it happens? Or?
I don't keep a record of anything.
You just experience it real time.
Yes.
You're very present with it.
Yes. Wow. It's all about being present with it. And every time I make an ink out of something that I've made an ink out of before, it's never going to be the same because it's whatever is happening in that moment. Yeah. I don't keep a log of like, did I put a tablespoon of salt in a tablespoon?
You just create something new after.
Do what it feels like. It's intuitive, right? It's whatever it feels right. And that's what I've done with every ink. I have about 30 inks that I work with right now. and they're just all different materials.
That's cool. You have 30 inks, and those are 30 unique experiences that you've had. You've forged things, you've ate things, and had the scraps made and made an ink out of that. And so, like, you tell us stories from that. So, we have the inks, and then you transfer it now. So, like, tell us a little bit about, like, how you take that ink and you make some art.
Yeah.
Like, what is that process like, girl?
So now I have the symbolism, right? So I've got red cabbage. I keep going back to red cabbage because it's one of my favorite inks that I have. It symbolizes new beginnings. It can also symbolize love and a few other things. Mulberries, they symbolize healing. They also symbolize resilience. So I have these different meanings that I can connect to whatever I'm processing, what I'm feeling. And it becomes a meditative process for me. It becomes a little bit like therapy for me.
Wow.
And I've been able to use art heals. It sure does. It sure does. And it has been a huge part of my healing journey for the past year. And I listen to music. I listen to music on a loop. So I'll pick a song and I listen to it over and over and over again. And I connect to what either the lyrics in that song are or whatever the mood of that song is. And I'll take a note. I have like a little journal and I take notes of what I feel from that song. And then I go back and I look at my log of inks. I connect it. So I'm not using color theory, which a lot of artists use color theory to create their palette. I'm using emotion. I'm using whatever these symbols are that connect to the music. And then I intuitively paint. It's abstract. I just look at how the inks flow together and how they blend together. I do some like blending experiments where I'll like test it out and I'll see like, okay, like how does this interact with each other? But it just happens in the moment and nothing is a mistake. It just is what it is.
I was going to ask you that, because sometimes as an artist, we have like, you've literally laid it out that it's a very meditative process. You allow for your creation to become whatever it's going to be. But sometimes we do have a vision in our head of like maybe what we would want to create. Has there ever been like an instance where you did a droplet and it actually went left? Like, has that happened? Like, what do you do? Do you allow it to be or just?
I just allow it to be because I'm just present with it. And I think for me, as somebody who is go, 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 I'm very like, Mander outside. Mander is always just out and about and
just let it be.
Doing things. This is the one thing in my life that I let it be. And I accept whatever
That's healing.
Comes out.
That's healing. That's so healing. And also, because you said there's a repetition in terms of even the music, right? Like there's levels to that too, like are your pieces like layered at all? Do you revisit them? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'll typically lay a base layer of ink and I'm like visualizing what the music, I can visualize the music in my head, right? And so that's also helping the flow on the paper. And then I'll let it dry. I might come back to it later that day. I might come back to it a week later. A lot of times I just let it sit on my table and I'll come back after work, throw my backpack down. I come over and I'm like, this needs a little something. I'll put the music on. I like to play the music really loud, just keep it looping, and then I'll add another layer to it.
And that's beautiful too, because you're giving it more than just one experience, right? Because you're revisiting it. You have a whole nother day, maybe a few hours. You cooked yourself some lunch. You feel something different, right? And then you look at it again.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think in art, at least for me, I would want to sit and just relish and focus on that for just that one period. But it's good to be able to let it breathe, right? Like it can be something totally different.
Yeah, and sometimes I have multiple pieces going at one time. I'm working on a bunch of different projects right now, like because that's just what I'm doing. And they get another visit when I add the mixed media elements to it, because it's not just the ink that's on there. I dye thread with the ink, and then I embroider into the paper. I grew up learning like needlepoint from my mom.
This is wild. You also mentioned that as a child, you wanted to also be a fashion designer. And the fact that you've incorporated needle and thread into your pieces, like, I just feel like there's like a big rebirth. Like, I think internally sometimes we have things that subconsciously we may have dismissed, but they happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And using natural elements to create, you're a very intentional person, Mander. This is like very beautiful. Like, you've manifested all of these things, but they've come within. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. I love doing that, and needlepoint was stressful for me as a kid. I have really sweaty hands, and so I would
palm.
sweaty palms all the time. Not right now though.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You'll be
I
laughing.
would. That's
Yeah.
right. We got this. But I would be embroidering as a kid, and I would like stain the white fabric, or I would actually take the coating off of needles because my hands were so acidic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Acidic.
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna own it as an adult, and I'm gonna be fine with it.
Conquer.
And I love doing it. I'll sit on the couch here, and I will stitch into my paintings. Otto's not around, but I've got a cat named Otto, and he hangs out with me while I stitch. And I'm just bringing back all of those stitches that I learned as a kid, and learning new ones as an adult. Like, I made grass out of embroidery. I had radicchio dyed thread, and I wanted to put grass into one of my. I had like this abstract landscape that I made, and I learned how to make grass out of. It's called turkey stitch. Which is really fun. Yeah. So I learned how to do a turkey stitch and put that into the painting. But I also do mark making. So I'll take like you take markers or charcoal or any pencil, whatever it might be, and just literally making marks. So like could be spirals, or it could be like hash marks. It could be little circles. But just
and that's
something
also
to
freeing
add.
movements, right? Again, a part of your process.
Meditative.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and just seeing how things kind of come together. So I add that if it feels right for the painting. Sometimes I don't add it, sometimes I do. Sometimes I add embroidery, sometimes I don't. It's just whatever feels right for that piece.
What's your favorite song? So you've mentioned you do multiple pieces at once. Is there like a specific song that you really felt like connected to? Did it spark something that also, you mentioned about embroidering? It's like there was a point that you started to add that in. Was there something that kind of triggered you to do that?
So the first piece that I finished is also the first piece that I sold in an art show, which is really exciting to me.
Did they know that was the first piece? They didn't. Again, I believe in the gods. I believe in like everything, putting things into motion, girl. This was for you. Okay.
I made this piece in the summer of 2023 to Echo and the Bunnymen's The Killing Moon. Echo and the Bunnymen. Yeah, The Killing Moon is the name of the song. It's a great song. Look it up if you haven't listened to it. But Echo and the Bunnymen were part of kind of the 80s post-punk, new wave pop kind of music. And I love, that's my favorite kind of music. I love Talking Heads, my favorite band of all time. I have not painted to a Talking Heads song though. I don't know, I just can't do it. But
some things are gotta be for yourself,
Yeah.
It's okay.
But The Killing Moon was this really cool piece that I made, and it was the first one that I felt like, okay, this is done. And it has all the elements to it. It has ink, it has embroidery, it has mark making.
Wow.
And it just had these beautiful colors. It was red cabbage, mulberries, orange cosmo flowers, and I think 9 bark, which is like a shrub, which is a purple shrub, but it turns into this mustard yellow ink, which is so cool.
Mustard yellow's your fave.
Purple and mustard yellow. And it was a purple and yellow painting. And so those are my favorites. Had red cabbage in it. Yeah, red cabbage. And then I embroidered into it, and it was the first one that I embroidered into. And yeah, it just felt like this is the first piece.
Yeah.
And I hung that piece in the Parkville Art Gallery here in Hartford, Connecticut. It was the first gallery show I had done in 19 years. Last gallery show I did was at Art Space Hartford in 2005. And I hung this piece in 2024. And that night of the grand opening, it was the grand opening of the gallery. You were here.
Yes, it was amazing. It was
so
amazing.
Fun.
You had a whole display.
It was so fun. I had 13 pieces in that show, and that piece sold that night. And it was just a really emotional moment for me because it was
the first
one, and somebody
bought it. Yes,
I sold a piece of art.
It was a confirmation. You did exactly what was inspired by you, and everyone saw that. I think that was that is the main thing about you, Mander, is that you're such an authentic person, and when you go with the heart, you're actually able to deliver, and people see that, so thank you so much, Amanda, because you're a blessing to the community. You're literally living your truth, and I'm so very proud of you. So you guys tune in, make sure you follow and learn so much more about how it is that you can tap into your inner you and then also create. Keep creating, everyone, and tune in next time.
That's right. Thanks, Tiana. I also want to give a shout out to my crew. We got Tim Wiseman, producer extraordinaire. And we got Nivi Easterling taking care of the videography for me. So love you guys. Thanks, Tiana.
Of course.
Yeah, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff in the Making with Mander. Thanks for tuning in.